in perfect harmony.
As I said earlier, this is the second Sunday in Advent. And the word Advent comes from the Latin word adventus, which means arrival or the coming of something of great importance. By the 16th century, Christians throughout Germany used a wreath like this one right here, and we thank Beverly for it, to celebrate the coming of Jesus as a light to the world after centuries of darkness. And the Advent season began. And today it is a season of 4 weeks, and it begins the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And the first Advent, of course, the first Sunday is the Sunday of hope, because hope is the parent of faith. And faith is what gives us spiritual courage to keep on keeping on when things seem impossible. And so today, on the second Sunday of Advent, we celebrate peace, because peace is very, very important to us if we're even going to have the courage. So once we get that spiritual courage, then it takes peace to help us move through situations that are threatening and that are scary for us. And each Sunday, Advent takes us a little deeper into a very personal meaning, a personal feeling of wanting to shed our light on the dark spots or places in our own world, and on the dark spots in the world around us. And so this year it's very interesting that we are all experiencing so much peace, and that we make that inward commitment to let that peace shine forth from us. In other words, if you're not a peaceful person, you cannot bring peace to anyone, because you can't give what you don't have. So if you want to bring peace to the world, all it takes is for you to become a peaceful person. And once you become a peaceful person, wherever you are, you make the difference of bringing peace with you. And you know, sometimes we just lose our sense of peace. Every Sunday as we sing, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Have you ever thought of that? Because we sing it and we're just used to it in all Unity churches, end their services by holding hands and saying, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. But how many of us really stop and think about what that means? What it means is not so much that you're going to make some big political movement to bring peace to the world, but that you are going to be a peaceful person, and that you bring peace, and by you bringing peace, eventually the world feels peace as well. And every time that we remember that, we strengthen our inner commitment to be a peace-filled person. So today we're going to relight our Advent candles. We're going to relight the candle of hope, because that was the parent of faith, and that's what started the Advent season. So Judy, if you would relight that. And then we're going to today light the candle of peace. Thank you. And we know that as we light the candle of peace, we make that inner commitment to be peaceful during the Christmas days, D-A-Z-E. Because it isn't easy. There's so much traffic, so much waiting. It seems like every time you get on a long line, the person in front of you has forgotten their license, or something is happening to try to wrench that peace away from you. And you know, the Course in Miracles says that peace is inevitable to those who offer peace. So if you're giving peace, you're going to find peace. And it says, do you think the world needs peace as much as you do? Do you not want to give it to the world as much as you want to receive it? For unless you do, you will not receive it. To have peace, teach peace. To have peace, teach peace. And remember that What we teach is what we are. I always know that, having been the mother of 4 children, that your children learn much more from you when you think they're not watching than when you sit down and try to put ideas into their brains. So to be is what is important here. We teach peace by living it, by being peacemakers. You know, last Sunday for me was probably the worst Sunday I've had here. So those of you who weren't here, I'm glad you missed it. And it wasn't a good Sunday for me. And yet after I talked to people, they said, well, what are you talking about? It wasn't an okay Sunday, but I lost the peace of God last Sunday because I had been gone for a week. And so I planned to get up very early, be here by 8:30 to prepare for the first Sunday of Advent. Of course, I wrote my lesson before I left, but there were lots of preparations that had to happen. And I get in my car, bam, it's dead. I can't believe it. This beautiful car is dead. Totally turned, did everything I knew. Couldn't get the thing started. So I called Diane and I said, Diane, can you pick me up? My car's dead. She said, sure, but you know, it's like early. She hasn't even had a shower yet. So she says, yeah, I have to take a shower. I'll pick you up around 10 o'clock. I said, okay. So by the time I got here and people wanted to talk to me about having been gone and this and that and the other thing, I never got around to discussing anything with my platform person about, we're going to do things differently today. We have this, we have that, this is that, and that. The service started and I was trying to wing it. And I wasn't winging it because to me it was choppy and it wasn't working and I lost my peace. And I looked up there and it was 11:45 and I hadn't even started my lesson. So I said silently as I was sitting here, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. The peace of God is all I want. Nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. And you know, I always say to you that I only teach you what works for me. Well, it worked. Suddenly I was sitting there and I felt very peaceful. And I stood up and it was like moving toward 10 to 12 and I said, I can do this. I cut my lesson by more than half, but somehow jointed it together okay. And we got through the Sunday. And I said, next week, I'm going to give them that affirmation because I know it works. And that's our affirmation today. Nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. And as it turned out, as I found my peace and felt very peaceful and good, Tom was coming through the line. I said, Tom, do you do cars? I knew he did because I saw all the little cars he comes in on. And he said, yeah, can you come over and look at my car? And he did, and he fixed it. And the next morning I was just so filled with gratitude because I had a running car. I learned to really appreciate the car. And so when we're peacemakers, we make peace within ourselves and we become open channels for peace and for grace to happen for us. So everything flows beautifully. I wanted to share a story today about 2 brothers who lived in adjoining farms. And of course, they were very close, and they were so close, and they loved each other so much that they bought farms next to each other. And as happens sometimes in families, they fell into conflict. And suddenly they were angry with each other, and they were in this conflicting energy, and they didn't want to live that close to each other, but what could they do? So, as this all fell apart, with very small misunderstanding, which is always the way it happens, bitterness started to grow between them. And one morning, there was a knock on one of the brothers' doors. John, he opened it, and he found a man with a carpenter's toolbox. And he said, I'm looking for a few days of work, to John. Perhaps you would have a few small jobs that you could help me out with. And John said, oh, yes, yes. He was the older brother, of course. And he said, I do have a job for you. Look across the creek at that farm over there. That's my neighbor. In fact, it's my younger brother. Last week, there was a meadow between us. He recently took his bulldozer to the river levee, and now there's a creek between us. Well, he may have done this to spite me, but I'll do him one better. See that pile of lumber by the barn? I want you to build me a very tall fence so that I don't have to look at his place anymore. So, the carpenter said, I think I understand the situation. Show me the nails and the post hole digger, and I'll be able to do a job that I think pleases you. So the older brother had to go to town, and he left the carpenter to his work, gave him all the things that he needed, and the carpenter worked all day measuring, sawing, nailing, and about sunset, when the farmer returned, the carpenter had just finished his job, and the farmer's eyes opened very wide, his jaw dropped. There was no fence there at all. It was a bridge that stretched from one side of the creek to the other. A fine piece of work. And the neighbor, his younger brother, was coming toward them, his hand outstretched. You're a good fellow to build this bridge after all I said to you and after all the words that happened between us. The two brothers stood at each end shaking hands, and then they met in the middle and made up. The carpenter was kind of the way Jesus worked his life when he was here on earth. He saw disagreements and he just figured out ways to mend them, to heal them, to pull them together, instead of exacerbating them and making them worse. Because every time we take time to give somebody a piece of our mind, that's exactly what we've done. We've given them a big chunk of our energy. And you know what? When we come in to this body, we are given so much energy. And you could spend it on whatever you want to. But every time you waste a lot of it on anger, you've just shortened your life. Because you've taken a whole bunch of energy that could have been spent in the now moment, having fun, loving people in your life. Because we are peacemakers, as Jesus was. Peace, be still, he commanded the stormy sea. Go in peace, he told all of those he healed. Peace be with you, and my peace I give unto you, he said to all who would follow him. And in his famous sermon on the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, he promised, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Which is why Unity's co-founder, Charles Fillmore, taught that the mind of peace precedes healing. That means there can be no peace in your life, unless no healing in your life, unless there's peace. So you have to have that mind of peace before you can have the healing that you need. And so during the holiday seasons, when you start to lose your peace, as I did last week, just reach out to that wonderful, peaceful place at the core of your being and say, the peace of God is all I want. Nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. And remember that whatever you are seeking, whether it's healing, relationship, prosperity, whatever you need, the peace of God precedes it. So, regardless of what chaotic thoughts are running through your mind during this Christmas days, D-A-Z-E, remember, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. And after all, Jesus did promise, according to your faith, be it done unto you. So believe that when you say that and when you feel it, something mystical will happen that will lift you to a place of peace. So I can go home and ruminate and think about what a lousy job I did last Sunday. I went home totally in a state of peace, knowing that the next day my car was going to be fixed and I was going to be just fine and everything was great and I had a great Sunday. And so if it worked for me, it'll work for you. So our affirmation this morning is nothing during this holiday season can disturb the calm peace of my soul. Let's say that in two parts. First, let me say it first. Nothing during this holiday season, together, nothing during this holiday season can disturb the calm peace of my soul. Can disturb the calm peace of my soul. And so it is.
Let peace begin.